going. We've got the webinar going. Let's make sure we're recording. We've done it, Anne. What a morning.
Good morning. You
What
have
a
lots to
morning
share
it's been.
today.
Oh my goodness, so much goodness. I have to say, so we were just talking, before I introduce Anne to everybody, we were just having a really nice chat. And you know what? This is what I love about the work that I do and the people that I get to spend time with is I can just be, okay, things were just not going great. Like I had this big event for my family this weekend that I planned and it went great and I was feeling really great, but somehow it kind of sucked my energy out. So this morning I dropped the coconut oil on the shower floor. That is not something you want on your floor. No way. I like caught my something in and it ripped. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I left my necklace on, but I'm wearing it so you guys know the end of the story. I left my necklace at the river park last night when I did yoga, and I spent an hour and 15 minutes running my toes through the grass, looking for my necklace, looking for my necklace, looking for my necklace. Held 3 conference calls while I was there, looking for my necklace, looking for it. And finally I said, well, that's it. I just have to walk away from this necklace that I've worn for years and I love so much, and that's just the way it is. And I got in my car and there was my necklace hanging off of my yoga mat bag. And just a reminder, and I know, Anne, you get this, right? Just a reminder that really in the grand scheme of things, not so great, but if you just go with the flow. And I was like, well, when else would I have had an hour and 15 minutes to run my toes through the grass? Like who gets to do that? So that
You were fully present in that moment too.
I
think
was
that's
doing the
part of it.
conference call thing,
Yeah.
right? Like I did have 3 calls that I took this morning. But it was good. I was grounded. And I want to give my digital marketing tip for them. And so then I got back, I'm like, I got to get on the call with Anne. And I was like, Anne, I didn't prepare a digital marketing tip. What should I talk about? And you were so spot on because it was so many people's challenge. So I'm going to touch upon it briefly because I know you and I have a lot to talk about. But Anne's challenge was time management in digital marketing. And I asked her to expand on that a little bit. And she said it's when she feels like she needs to be immediately responsive, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, like immediately responsive, like she gets a message on Facebook or gets an email or gets a text, and whatever deep work she's doing, it kind of brings her out of that and away from the flow, and then it starts. And I know that what's that guy's name that does the deep work thing, right? Like I'm forgetting his name, but it's great to listen to on podcasts. So as far as digital marketing, the quick tips that I'll give right now would be that one of the things that one of my friends does is on her email, she always has, you know how it says vacation responder, but it really can be anything. And hers is brilliant where it says, you know, I protect she has a great way of saying it. And if I had time, I would have looked it up. But basically, I look at my emails twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon. And I am wishing you well, good and light. And I will get back to you as soon as I can so that and of course you shut your notifications off, shut your phone to the other side so that doesn't happen. And people understand the boundaries. I think that's what we were talking with Catherine last week too, is setting up those boundaries and knowing when to say no. Same thing, don't put your notifications to ding on your phone necessarily, or set your timers, the Pomodoro method, right? Where you look at nothing for X amount of time. That's super helpful. But that away message, I thought might be the one thing that would help too. And to set up expectations. And so if you didn't listen to Catherine's talk last week, she was wonderful and talked about that quite a bit. If I think of anything else while we're going on, I might interject, but otherwise, if I do think of things as we're moving, I'll put it into the notes on this webinar.
I think sometimes I feel like Pavlov's dog, you know, that you hear the bringing. Whoop, someone needs me. I have to respond, and I think it becomes most distracting when you're a part of a group text or you're part of a message that, you know, everyone is responding on, and then you don't want to be, but you don't want to miss something. And it's a good tip to have those messages of when you check it and to turn the notifications off so you can be fully present.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I've been
Yeah.
having that a lot lately too, because there are so many groups that I am involved in, and I feel like if I don't answer, I'm being rude. I just don't ever
Or,
want to be rude.
yeah, I do some email etiquette in some of my work as well. And, who's in the to field where who's in the CC field. And I think that there's assumptions sometimes on, well, someone else is going to be doing that. I'm just CC'd. For
Oh,
informational purposes where there's a call to action and that needs to be called out. So sometimes that can be hard as well in trying to understand, is there an expectation for me to act on something, depending on if you're in the to or you're CC'd.
oh, very interesting. Yeah, that is
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay, well, we'll go. That is another topic which I will dive into a little bit deeper, give some more thought to.
great.
For today, let me do your official bio. Anne Lipsitz is a career transition and Gallup Strengths coach. And I will say that is her title for this exact moment, but she has like 1,000 other titles. Her superpower is helping people use their strengths so they can confidently tell their stories and then move forward on their intended journey, which I love. So today, you guys, our brief topic details was we're going to understand and maximize strengths so you can start focusing on what naturally makes you powerful and unique and discover what you naturally do best. So in order to set up for today's session, I took the Gallup poll, I always want to say Gallup poll, the Gallup Strengths assessment that Anne offers. And I was like, am I doing this right? I don't know if I'm doing this right. I kind of just guessed, and they only give you a few seconds to answer each question. So I'm like, all right, best answer. It was kind of fun, like a game. And somehow I ended up with this strengths report that seems to be spot on. And I'm going to ask Anne to go to talk about what it is she does. And then she's going to kind of segue right into, all right, Susan, here's what it said about you. So Anne, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. I love this work. I was introduced to Gallup Strengths when I started at Providence College, and we were using it for students. It's a big transition time in their life to get a sense of self and have strengths behind them as they make decisions as to their academic choices and joining clubs, and really using strengths as a way to build confidence. Many times in our world of work or in life, you're told what you don't do well and where you need to improve. And the philosophy behind strengths is, why would you make someone who is not strong in an area continue to try to improve when there are strengths that aren't being utilized? So in doing the assessment, it really provides a great sense of awareness as to when you're at your best, when you need to pull from yourself to get things done, to influence others, to get input and data, to drive decisions. This is where you perform the best. This is where you can maximize your talents and potential and really make a significant contribution. So I use strengths as I do career and transition coaching, because many times if someone is looking for a new job, got laid off from a role, not happy, have lost their joy, trying to refine what makes them tick, that this is a good place and a confidence builder. Like you said with the assessment, like it's almost eerie, like it gets you. And the questions seem benign as far as how your responses will build this report. Yet 20 million people have taken it, and statistically 93, I think 0.8% say this was exactly me. And then the beautiful thing is it gives you a language to be able to answer the question, tell me about yourself. I find in helping people prepare for interviews, they get nervous about that question from the standpoint of, not that they don't know as CEO of them what that answer is, but they don't know what that other person is wanting for a response and overthink that. Where strengths at least will be able to, like in your case, say that I'm a strategic relationship builder. that helps people lose the noise when it comes to successfully managing their digital marketing. And that is who I know from you in a few meetings. So for me, it's very exciting as well that I get to be a partner in someone's journey, that you share this insight, which can be a vulnerable spot for people. And then I give you back how these 5 work. And I give you the strengths part. I give you what you love about it, but I also tell you what you don't love about it. And I give you a barrier to understand. And that barrier is the perception of the world when that strength is too much for their world, and to be mindful of it. And this works really effectively with team building as well, that sometimes that person that always asks too many questions for our liking in a meeting because they have input and need to have more information to move forward is a significant contributor to our team and not a blockage in getting things done, and to find some respect for those strengths that aren't your top 5, but together you can make wonderful things happen. So I see it work well with anyone personally and professionally. I see it work well with individuals that are in transition, and I see it really work well with teams for the aha of, well, everyone knows what my strengths are now, and maybe I'll get projects in this space. And I work with leaders who then realize that they might have the wrong people on the wrong seats on the bus, and that moving people along or creating cross-functional teams will really increase retention and engagement and help people feel more confident and productive at work.
I would imagine. So most of the people I think that either listen to what I put out there or consume it are probably solopreneurs or very small business owners, but not only, but they'll, I think to your point, it gives you the language to answer, tell me what you do, or tell me about yourself. Not only that, many of them are starting to leverage up a little bit and are starting to think about hiring out at least some of the work that they need to do. Some of them are getting virtual assistants or copywriters or graphic designers for their business. So I would imagine too that having identified their strengths and barriers, this would help them to be able to figure out who to hire. Is that something?
Yeah, absolutely. This is used in hiring and retention. I know 2 organizations that use it that are heavily sales based, and they're looking for strong influencers who execute in their leadership domains. And they have different assessments that look at what motivates them, but intuitively, they want someone who can be resilient, who enjoys meeting new people and new social situations, and is looking to share their passion for a product or service with others. So definitely, as someone's building a team, if an organization is in a reorganization, if a small business owner is partnering with someone else and knows that there's complementary skills, but not sure that they can work well together, I think it becomes a great place for dialogue as well. You know, that when you're saying, tell me about yourself, and you have these strengths with a narrative around it, you can then give examples. And the example acronym that I like to use is STAR. So STAR is S is the situation, T are the tasks, A are the action steps, and R are the results. I joke that in my New England accent, sometimes it's sta instead of star. Yep. And the R is the most important part of that whole situation, setting it up. So the situation today was you lost your necklace. The tasks you did were to look around where it might have been in the home, go back to the place where you thought it was, spend the time that you did multitasking to do your due diligence to make sure that you at least looked there first, with the result being that you actually found it on your yoga bag. Yes. So it's a great acronym, especially if people get long-winded or have a hard time getting to the point because they perhaps have context as a strength. So they need to give you all of their history rather than I'm just looking for the bottom line result. So I find STAR is a great reminder of providing clear, concise communication complemented with strengths as you're trying to share your value proposition with the world. And I encourage all of my clients to be their star, to know their strengths, and to be able to articulate them. Again, if it's in an interview, if it's in new partnership relationships, that they use this as a further tool for some insight, and to go into jobs that play to these strengths. I've had a couple of people that said the work that I was going to be doing would not be work that would be in my strengths, and I would be best served in looking to do something different. So while I'm waiting for Susan to come back, I can give you a little bit more insight on Gallup. So if you were to go to Google Gallup Strengths, you'll find that there is an assessment tool there. There's an assessment tool that you can purchase for $49. That is your all 34 strengths. Or Susan and I worked on her top 5, which is a cost of $19.99. And then you get a personalized insight report, which I can further give you some information for. I was sharing how that folks could go on to Gallup Strengths to see the tools and the 2 options of looking at your top 34, looking at your top 5 versus all 34.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that, you guys. My computer shut off. I didn't know if you'd still be there, and I was so happy to see that you were.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's one of those days. So with my computer shut off, or I don't know why it shut off yesterday as well, I can't actually look at the sheet that you gave me,
All right.
but I would be very
Go
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
So those of you who know Susan probably are not surprised that her top strength is learner. And learner is in the strategy domain. So she's always looking to make sure that things are assessed from the standpoint that she's helping people analyze and absorb information in order to get things done. And her processes help us be more efficient and streamlined. So in the learner, what she brings, what you contribute, what your value is, you enjoy the experience of learning. You follow things that interest you. You look at everything from a learning perspective. Is there learning to be shared? Is there learning to be had? And you love to live on the cutting edge, that there is probably new information in this space and you need to find it. What energizes you is the need for exposure to new information and experiences. You're not one who is going to settle for less than everything or function in the status quo. Know-it-alls are not anyone that you're immediately attracted to, or having to know it all, because you look at learning as there's no possibility because there's so much more to learn. And a barrier. So the barriers are interesting, that when you're in your learner mode, if you're working with another person who doesn't understand this strength or has had enough of the learning, that a barrier could be that this curiosity can lead to non-productivity, that it's never enough, that you have one more question because you read one more article and you listened to one more podcast and read one more blog.
Oh my God. Anne, you have me so pegged.
That brought you to a place where your whole day is gone and it was beautifully spent, but now you have lots of work to get done. So that's where your strengths start, is from this place of learning. And then your top 5 then build on that. So your next strength is positivity. And I think that's the first thing that I met when I met you, that you're optimistic, you're hopeful, you're fun-loving, you're light, You lift heavy emotional situations. You are energy and enthusiasm, and you're all about loving life to the fullest and making sure that every day you show up and you take everything that you can from it. You need the freedom to experience that and all the range of emotions and the joy and drama that life is. Negative people are not what you're attracted to, especially those that suck the life out of others and drain energy from a place, a space, or a person. And the barrier that you have to watch is others might look at you as naive, like the world can't be as great as you paint it.
Yeah.
That you, I don't know what Kool-Aid you're drinking, but the clear fluid over here says all that you have to say really doesn't exist in my world, and that you might not approach things from perhaps an academic standpoint that they do, that it just can't be that positive, especially if you're working with someone who's diametrically opposed to that and negativity surrounds them and they can't get there. And that they can't see your light because there's just darkness around them. So the naivety is something to be mindful of, working in conjunction with the curiosity when you're positioning something or a solution that someone might be like, I'm not sure. You like to execute and get results. Your third strength is achiever. So you're a hard worker. You set a clear pace when it comes to productivity. There's intensity to your work, and you have stamina when it comes to putting the effort in to get things done, and you love completing tasks. I can imagine you having lists and checking them off and feeling the joy of that is done. With achiever, you need to have the freedom to work at your own pace. You don't regard people that have a lack of diligence when it comes to their work, because you're in this mode of stamina and effort and getting it done. And a barrier to this, and I've worked with some people that have achiever as number one, is work is everything for them. And they can get lost in that sense of, I'll call it production love, that it's all about the work. And if they do more and they do better, then there'll be this sense of gratitude and value, and they lose things around them like relationships, people, events, networking, etc., that it can become too much about work. Your fourth is input, which we talked a little bit about earlier, and how that works with learner. So you are a resource collector. You hang on onto things because for you, they could be helpful for somebody else.
Yes.
You bring a lot of tools that can facilitate change and growth and performance, and you love to provide relevant and tangible help. You're always looking for information.
True.
You need space to store these resources that you naturally acquire. You hate not having things that someone might need or that are useful to others, because you have done all of this learning and input, and the fact that someone has a question that you don't have a resource for will gnaw at you until you can find that solution. And the barrier is that you're a pack rat, and that you might have too much lying around that can be a distraction to your input, like, oh, where was that I researched the other day about the blogger?
Oh my God, you're in my head, Anne.
the information that I know it's somewhere here, because you have input. And then your top 5 rounds out with connectiveness. So you are incredibly aware of people, families, groups, a community, that you incredibly aware of all parts of that. Your goal with connectiveness is to integrate those parts into a whole. You can see patterns or people sharing information, knowledge, input, learning to a point where you can collaborate to achieve great things. And you bring an appreciation for wonder and mystery and of life and all creation, that you'll approach things from that standpoint of, there's more I can learn in order to share with somebody else to help them connect to get something done. And what you need in your connectiveness is you have to be part of something bigger than yourself, a family, a team, a global community. You've joined the board of our local dot group. You are not comfortable with an us versus them mentality when we should all be connected and working together. But the barrier can be that people are like, she's out there, she's flaky, she's a new ager, she's not in touch with reality. That she's, again, drinking that Kool-Aid of a different color, and her naivety, is making it that we can't get things done because we need more information and learning. So it's your strengths when you're operating in full mode are the ability to absorb and analyze information in order to get things done, to bring relationships together to help people be more productive. And one of the things that is not present in the top 5 that we talked about is influence for you. So as you are a business of one, and as you are helping other small businesses and smaller teams, being mindful of pulling from other strengths in order to influence, in order to position, promote you, your business, their work, so that you can execute on all cylinders. So what do you think?
It's so freaky. Anyone who's listening to this, I don't know if Wendy's still on the call. Wendy was listening to this. She knows me really well for years and years. She's probably in her chair laughing right now because she knows that everything you just said is so on point. And I like the way they call it strengths. And then instead of saying some other word that they say, it's a barrier, because that's really what I want to pay attention to is, if it's a barrier, how do I kind of work around that then, right? So, yeah, for sure. My husband is always like, oh my God, you can't possibly be that positive. You can't possibly, like, it has to be us. Like everything you said is so spot on. Sonia is on Facebook Live too. I can't type in there like I usually do because I'm on the phone, but I see that she relates to a lot of this too. I'm so freaked out in a good way, but also so interested in how this came of just those however many questions I answered that I wasn't even sure of, but they make you do it right away. I love it. And I know that you and I talked, Anne, that as I start to put together my next digital marketing mastermind groups and my accountability groups, and as people are signing on with me for one-on-one coaching, I'm honored to offer this as an added value, that I'll be paying for people to take your Gallup Strengths test and have a half an hour assessment with you to kind of figure out what happens here, and then to take it, like we've only done 10 or 15 minutes here together. But I think that ultimately, if one of my clients had this opportunity to work with you, even for a half an hour, I know that they could go on and do the full another coaching with you and get all their strengths and all of their barriers. But even in the half hour, if they get this information, and then you leave a few minutes to say, all right, tell me about yourself. Now knowing this, right? Take these, and this is what I'm going to do this afternoon. Take this and then kind of rework not necessarily my elevator speech, but the tell me about yourself talk.
Right.
So
and I think it helps as well, like, what kind of environments do you thrive in? And you know that you need freedom, and you know that you need information, and you know that learning is going to drive a lot of those behaviors, and you're looking to connect people to get things done. That in a nutshell, is 2 or 3 sentences that you then can develop those star stories about, when I'm doing my best work, this is what it looks like, and help clients see that and get that out of them as well. I like to operate from positivity as well, that there's too much around us of what we don't do well, and we're not good enough, and we are enough. And when you know your strengths, you get to position that with confidence and I think that more that you practice and prepare for that, it becomes easier as well. And then as great things happen, or as you have other stories that are as transferable as the necklace story was, that you can develop those star stories that make sense for people, that are clear and concise, that get the message and can get someone to move to action.
I could listen to you all day, but I did just look at the clock. This was so good. So how can people get in touch with you, and what can you offer?
They can visit my website, which is my name, annelipsitz.com. All of my services are listed there. My email is annelipsitz@gmail.com. If they go and take their Gallup assessment, again, that's gallupstrengths.com. There is a $19.99 fee for the top 5 and a $49.99 fee for the top 34. I will give a 30-minute free consultation after they take that, and hopefully they'll be happily freaked out like you were, that it was spot on, and give you some insight to be a better version of yourself. This for me gives a starting point for someone to put a language around when they're at their best, what it looks like, and then develop from there.
Awesome. And thank you so
My pleasure.
much.
This was great.
Thanks for hanging out with us. I'll see you at the next dot meeting.
All right. All righty. Bye, Susan.
Bye. How to shut this off now. All right, you guys will watch me figure out how to shut it off.